need some help with Becca and the colt.
Okay. Change this here. I think that's visible in here. Seems like it. Four people.
I guess we're not doing it with cultures. Uh-oh, Blue's gonna go say hi to Puck. That's a good girl.
Take a run around the yard. You're going the wrong way, buddy. It's in here.
Oh, jeez.
Break for him.
He's like, I don't want to go in there. Saying hi to Shelby. Blue, your mom's calling.
Running away from his mom.
Come on, Blue. Don't you turn around, Blue. You come this way.
Be back here. Thermopylae.
Come on. Come on, Blue.
There we go.
Come on, Becca.
And Puck, you've been, or Puck, Frank, you've been so well behaved in that you didn't even try to chase him.
Hooray!
Gosh, what was wrong with him?
He's like, I'm run around and
Escape?
play.
Yeah, oh, now you try to chase him, Frank? Yeah, I wasn't counting us.
Yeah.
I'm not really watching.
Hey everyone. We really don't have a plan for today. So it's just more of a courtesy show, I guess. But many people in the miniature horse community have heard the news, but for our viewers, we don't know how many of you are in the miniature horse community or not. But one of the great miniature horse legends has passed away. He died on May 11th. He was 32, almost 33 years old, and that was Boone's little Buckaroo. He was national champion stallion, and he sired many national champions. And Becca is related to him. She is his great grand sire. So he's the great grandfather.
He's her great grandson.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
I would love to see her be his great grandsire.
She is his great granddaughter. Sorry, I forgot how I said it. Anyway, everyone is very sad to see this happen, of course, but it was inevitable. He lived a long, full life. He produced many great horses. One of the horses was Becca's grandsire, and that was I'm a Boone's little Buckaroo too. And he was a national champion. And so Becca is closely related to that horse. And they're all pretty much buckskin. That's kind of where you can assume Becca got her color from, is that line. The Pinto came in from other parents, but it was just a sad loss for the miniature horse community. This is a Breyer horse model that was dedicated to him. It was created, well, I don't remember what year this was released, but they ran these models, I would say, in 2003 to 2005. That's just a guess. I didn't do much research before I came on here. But I bought it like one Christmas when I was living in Utah, and it just sort of sat in my closet for years and years and years. And then after this news, I kind of pulled it out to look at it, and like, oh yeah, I remember getting that. And oh, I had owned several horses that were related to Buckaroo. He's sired so many wonderful horses out there that there's not really a miniature horse herd around that doesn't have Buckaroo lines. Mine are rather diluted. Only Becca has Buckaroo in her lineage, and her offspring, of course, so Blue and Annie also. But Showtime does not, and Puck does not, and Shelby does not, and Classy does not. Do I have any other horses out there that I've missed? I really haven't been focused on the Buckaroo lines. I was more focused on, it wasn't necessarily a line, but what I saw and what I liked. So it was more focused on individual traits of the horse itself, not necessarily the pedigree. So we don't have much of a crowd today, although people just haven't logged in. And Blue is trying to bite at my legs. But I went onto eBay recently and saw that only one of these was listed, and right now it's $35. I bought it for much less, and mine's still in the box. I did take the little brochure out of it to read it, so technically it's not mint in box, but it is mint in the box. It's just not sealed, but Breyer horse boxes are never sealed. I used to be a toy collector, so that meant something to me way back when. Now it means less. Anyway, the little card reads, this buckskin miniature horse stallion is one of the most prolific sires in the miniature horse world. Buckaroo was bred in 1978. I think they kind of mean born in 1978 because the parents were probably bred 1977 to result in the foal in 1978, but they're toy manufacturers. They're not horse breeders. So Buckaroo was born in 1978 by, he was bred by Lowell Boone and later purchased, shown, and bred by the Eberth family of Little King Farm and trained by, oh dear, ow! Hey, you're getting those teeth. That hurt. Ray Zorsher. After earning his own National Grand Champion award, Buckaroo got down to business of producing dozens of Grand Champions, and today this sire's get have continued to win and produce their own champions, handing down the spirit, natural athletic ability, and correctness that made Buckaroo great. Not to mention his frizzy hair, right, Taylor?
Yes.
Not a big fan of frizzy hair, and Buckaroo had it. So I tended to avoid Buckaroo lines because it's kind of a superficial thing. But there were other great horses out there that didn't have it, and so that's kind of where I put my focus. Although, Becca, I love you. You're a great-great-granddaughter, so it's kind of diluted, huh? It doesn't really count anymore. And Blue, you're great-great-great-grandson. Not to say that Buckaroo wasn't great, though. I just personally wasn't a Buckaroo fan. Blue!
Where's his training halter?
It's pink. It should be in...
That's a regular halter.
There's another one in there.
No, there's not.
No? Well, it's maybe in the other bag.
No.
There's a blue one.
I can't keep him off of this. I don't have a training halter. Keep talking.
I don't know what else to talk about.
Sorry.
There's a blue one. Taylor went for the pink one, Blue, even though we finally found the blue training halter.
I was used to it.
So, we're just talking about random stuff today. I kind of tried to make a little tribute to Boone's little Buckaroo. That's why I got this out, and I just wanted to share a little bit about Becca's lineage. That's just one part. I mean, she has other great horses in her lines, and Rowdy is another one that she has. Welcome, Moonchild. Glad to see you. Does anyone have questions, Renee? They still must mean something to you? Well, of course they mean something to me. Let's see, when we get down to fractions, how much of Buckaroo is in Becca?
Well, let's see. She's a great.
Uh-huh. So a grand is a quarter, and then a great is an eighth, and then a great is a 16th. Yeah, so I really love 15/16ths of Becca. And I love 1/16 of her.
1/16. Wow, that's a lot.
That is. But that's love. That's love. No, I'm just joking, Becca. She's still my favorite mare. Just don't tell Shelby. I know, this is totally random day. I also wanted to share my cookie cutter collection that I've been sort of adding to over the years. Every time I see something that's horse related that's not too hokey, I guess, I pick it up and...
Cookie cutters aren't too hokey.
Hey, if you're making cookies, they're very useful. I just haven't made cookies in a while. But I was wanting to hardship Puck into AMHA, but to hardship a stallion is very, very expensive. And so I had this idea, well, maybe I'll make cookies and I'll sell them on my website, and people can buy horse-shaped cookies there. But you can buy cookies anywhere, so unless they were really darn good cookies, which my cookies are, then I don't really see a point in selling cookies on my website. But if everyone is interested in cookies, why, I definitely make you some for a price, because cookies aren't free. I still have to pay for supplies. But I make a great gingerbread cookie. I even make what I call blonde gingerbread cookies, and instead of having molasses, I use honey, but there's other ingredients in there to make it work, so it's kind of still a secret. But let's carry on with my cookie cutters, shall we? First, this is what I call my Godfather horse head. It was the first one that I bought. It was a large cookie, and I was like, oh, this would be so awesome, and I have never used it. But it's a nice copper cookie cutter, so it should last a long time, probably the rest of my life, and hopefully one time I will make a cookie with it. Maybe for you guys. Want a horse head? I'll make them. What color was the horse's head in Godfather?
It was either red or brown. I don't remember.
Does anyone know?
Could have been black and gold under gold sheets. Anyways, we could send it with some sheet icing, so you can pretend to maybe get a little gingerbread man laying next to it in bed.
Yeah, that would be funny.
It's a horrible reference, but it's.
It would have to be a big gingerbread man to go with this horse head.
They make giant gingerbread men.
Yes, they do. And then they would probably take up this whole box, and we could dress up the box like a box spring mattress. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. Yeah, I think it was black too, Gidget Pony. But it's funny what tricks our memories play. Because obviously, in the dark, when they had that shot, everything was black.
Well, that's when he introduces the horse. Then he wakes up in the morning, the sun's shining. He's laying in gold sheets. I know that. It's like silk sheets. I just don't remember the color of the horse's head, and there's blood everywhere. Really family-friendly show today.
Okay, that was cookie cutter number 1. Cookie cutter number 2 is similar, just wasn't quite as drastic, so it has a little bit of a taper. It doesn't remind me of that as much, so it's more of my horse head cookie, something maybe you would mount on your wall. Oh. Hey, you're going to be taxiderming Puck when he dies. So.
Because I love him, I don't go around hunting horses and mounting them.
Okay, it's a zebra, and you can mount zebras' heads, right? So no, it's a horse head cookie. I'm more of a fan of the complete animal, though. They just don't have really nice, full-bodied horse cookie cutters, but I do have some. Here is horse body cookie cutter number 1. It's the very first one that I used, so this one actually has been used, and I made my gingerbread cookies out of it, and I handed them out for what was that? It was Christmas for your neighborhood.
Oh, my neighborhood block party.
Yeah, Taylor's neighborhood has when we lived in Utah. I'm sure they still have the block party, but every Christmas they have someone dressed up as Santa, and the kids go out and they get a treat bag, and they tell Santa what they want for Christmas. And we went out one year to spread the joy of gingerbread cookies as our snack to hand out, and Puck went out with us, and he was in the cart, and we had the cookies in a basket in the cart, and let the kids sit in the cart, and they of course wanted Puck to go, but he wasn't very trained, so we just said, no, that's not a good idea. And even Puck wanted a cookie. He almost took one from me when I was trying to give it to a kid, so it was quite fun. So, but Pup will eat almost anything that we have in front of his nose. He just trusts us that much. I have another full-bodied horse cookie cutter in here, and it actually has a tail. I haven't used it yet because it's so small, and I don't really know what kind of cookie would... This is like animal cracker-sized cookies, and I haven't found the perfect cookie for it yet. Maybe I should just make animal crackers and sell them in little barn boxes, and then make my little fundraiser that way. But I kind of need a certified kitchen, and I have animals that live around me, so I don't think I'll be getting a certified kitchen anytime soon. It's just sad. Maybe I'll borrow someone else's kitchen. Then I found this neat little cookie cutter. It's a boot. I figured it was horse related, and it gave me another option other than just the horse heads and the horses, so I bought a boot. And then I bought another boot. And I'm saying boot, I'm not saying boat, although I feel like I'm saying boat in Canadian. Yeah. Sorry to anyone who's Canadian. Boots. I have 2 boot cookie cutters. To round off my cookie cutter collection, I bought 2 more copper cookie cutters. And these are more for horse treats, so if I were to make a horse cookie, I would definitely use these ones. First I have my apple, and then to finish things off I have my carrot. And then this is where I was thinking I could make horse treats out of these 2 and then sell horse treats as a special gift on my website. But I have never had the time to do any of this. It's just been ideas, and maybe one day I'll actually feel motivated enough and get something out there for everyone to enjoy, other than just me. So that's my cookie cutter collection. See, today was I was just rushing to scramble to get things together. I don't have any horseshoes because I have miniature horses, and miniature horses don't have horseshoes. So to me, every time I saw a horseshoe, I'm like, well, that doesn't work. I've got minis, and maybe I should consider getting a horseshoe to add to my collection, because everyone else, well, they've got big horses, and those horses have horseshoes. Unless, of course, it's a Mustang, right?
Well, or you have people who do endurance races without shoes on, or depending on your farrier, takes them off when they're out in the field during the winter time. Then you have other people who don't shoe it all year round. I could go on for a long time. I studied for a while about trimming and hooves and things like that. So
yeah, maybe we should get a bottle of glue.
Oh, so good. Yes, you are.
He didn't react.
A bottle of glue?
A glue bottle cookie cutter?
Oh.
I'm laughing at myself, sorry. Oh yes, it does mean good luck. So maybe I'll eventually add a horseshoe to the mix, and maybe a clover would be, 4-leaf clover for 4-H. Although I never was in 4-H, and I always was jealous of the people who got to be in 4-H. Just never had the opportunity to own any livestock growing up. But now, well, I can't get enough livestock.
Yeah, you can.
I think that I have reached, critical mass. I have 32 chicks in my bathtub right now, clucking away. Well, they're chirping away. They haven't quite started clucking yet. And one of them's a little bit
pathetic,
small and slow, and he's really cute. He's fearless now because I've handled him so much, but we've been trying to nurse him and encourage him to grow so he can catch up with the others, but he's just not not gonna do it. It could be a her, I don't know yet. He's very cute, very alert, sweet little chicken. I don't know if he's gonna make it. Every night I give him a little syringe of food, and so I feed him by hand, and then I watch to make sure that he is drinking water and he is eating on his own, but he just doesn't have the go get it type attitude that all the other chicks have. And so I kind of worry about that little guy, because I lost so many with this shipment of chicks that came in, and I focused so much on him because while I was losing my 14 chicks that died, every day I was expecting that he would be one of them, and he never died. So I kind of root for the little guy now, and every day he's around is kind of a little miracle. But yeah, that's why Taylor was laughing at my I can't get enough livestock, because obviously, you know, all the chickens that I just got in, and I'm trying to raise them, and then I have chickens out there, and we need to build a couple more coops. And then I have all these horses, 7, and do we have any other livestock? We just got chickens and horses.
Dog, yeah, livestock, no. We've got other animals, but no more livestock. We're
looking
at getting more, but we need more land and more time.
One day I would like to add a miniature donkey. I would like to add some zebu cattle, miniature zebu. Unless you liked a different one. The miniature Jersey was pretty cool.
Depends on how the zebu tastes.
Taylor's all about eating them. I'd probably have a hard time, because I have a hard time with anything dying, even the chickens. And Taylor was surprised when I told him today, yeah, I don't like the taste of chicken. And then he asked why I had so many, and I don't know. It was a good idea at the time, but they're kind of regretting how many I ordered. So if anyone wants some chickens, just come over and you can have your broiler rooster, so long as I don't know it's going to be a broiler rooster. But right now they are the size of chicken nuggets, so there isn't much to broil. You kind of have to wait for them to grow. They're Banty sized, so they'll be, you know, enough for one person, maybe 2. Do I have any other questions? I mean, we've got Becca here with Boo, so you could see her, and you know, she's doing great. She still has a little bit of irritation going on. We need to give her another bath, but it looks much better than when I first washed her. She's recovering. The hair's actually starting to grow. Looks like it's been growing for a month. Although she's been scratching it a little longer than that, but the breakage looks like it's grown out a little bit. And then Boo, he's obviously grown some teeth. As you see earlier, he was biting my leg as I was standing here trying to talk. And how's he doing with the halter training? I haven't been watching you.
A lot better than last week. He actually comes to me occasionally.
Oh. He hasn't reared up and flipped over yet, has he?
Not this week.
Not this week. No. Sometimes they do that. You get a little freaked out, but you know, you just pull, and you're just being so gentle, and then they go a little crazy, and they rear up, and then they lose their balance, and they flop over on their side. You think that you have killed them, and then they stand up again. Annie did that to me yesterday. I think it was the day before. I was out trying to train her to lunge. And it was her first time, so I was trying to be very, very patient and letting her get used to the whip sound. And she had a very strange reaction to the lunging first experience. She didn't run away from the whip sound. She wanted to back towards the whip sound. She didn't want to turn around and walk towards it. She just wanted to back up. And so I had to tap her with the whip to get her to go forward, but eventually she did do the rear up and pulled the wrong direction, got off balance, and then fell on her side. And I was a little bit nervous there that she had hurt herself, but she got up and she was just fine. Sometimes it's a little unpredictable with horses, so training them is fun. I'll let Taylor train this little guy, because colts are a mouthful. Renee, I had one person call about buying Blue. I really don't know if they were interested in buying. I think it's more like what we call a hoof kicker, kind of like tire kickers. They just come, they want to express their interest because I know that they like the animal, but then it's the commitment to buy that they're not really there for. So I mean, maybe the person was interested. She left a message on my phone. I called back, left a message on her phone, and then I haven't heard back. But I try not to push the issue. I have that, what I guess you'd call a Blue personality, where I like people to I want people to feel fine and not to press any issues. So if they're not comfortable, then I don't want to be a salesperson. So I haven't tried calling since, but maybe I will, just to touch base, just to see if they are at all interested still. But I thought about taking these guys to a show next week over near Tacoma, and maybe there'd be some interested people there that might want to take Blue home. Of course, he can't go home yet because he has to be with Becca for another couple months. Frank! He was just looking over here like, what's everyone doing? Blue has started to eat grass. He's got his teeth, and so he's experimenting on a lot of things with those teeth. He's biting his sister, he's biting me, he's eating grass, and he's still nursing, obviously. But yeah, he's not quite as interested in grass as, say, Becca, of course. So grass is just sort of a little supplement to his diet at this time. It's good for him, though. Of course. But he won't be old enough to be weaned for another, I would say 3.5 months to be nice. I know people that do wean their foals as young as 3 months, but I think we try to go for 4. You can go as long as 5, and Annie, she was completely spoiled. She was in with her mom for, 9 months before I decided, okay, maybe it's time to pull you out. Your mom needs to get ready for the next baby that's coming along. And here our chickens are quite vocal right now. Maybe Frank's over there teasing them. Any more questions I could answer? Taylor, do you have anything to say?
Not this time.
Well, what we have in store for Sunday will be a treat. Oh wait, we have someone. How long do you plan on breeding Becca?
She's 8, so
yeah, she's
about 90 years.
She's kind of in the prime of her broodmare career, I guess you could say, right now.
Career?
I don't really,
We pay her in grass.
Yes,
Lots of it.
She gets more grass than she could ever.
Addicted. We gotta smuggle it over.
Yeah. It's kind of a question that I don't know quite to have. I don't think I have the answer for right now. I'm tempted to breed her again this year, but I'm not sure. The market isn't great for horses, and just adding to that seems unnecessary. So, I kept her full from last year, and if no one buys Blue, then I'll have 2 of her babies. So it's kind of, why would I try again until I have more space? So I'm kind of undecided at this time. I would like to breed her until she can't be bred anymore because she's so nice, but that is a bit extreme. But that's just part of what I wish I could do. But Becca, you deserve better than that. I might give her early retirement around, well, I don't know. I haven't really thought this through. as far as I plan on breeding, I was going to stop breeding it and start focusing on showing. So if Becca's 8 now and I wanted to get some show stock, basically I want to show the foals that I produce. So, you know, Becca has produced Annie and Blue so far, and if Blue stays with us, then I would show him. And depending on how well they do, of course I want to continue producing more of Becca's foals so that I can continue showing. I just haven't thought it through. Becca doesn't seem to mind this having babies. She's an excellent mom and loves her foals. I hope that answers the question. I don't want to seem negligent, but I don't have 25 mares that are in foal every year, and I'm not one of those massive breeding farms, and I'm just trying to sustain the horses that I have. So as long as I can sustain them, then I don't see a problem in having them. But there is a space issue, so I have to consider that. I don't even know if Classy is pregnant at this time, so if I only have one mare producing a foal every year, and then that's Becca, then Becca kind of gets to be the one that gets to have the foal. It just is the way it works. And there is a sort of a saying with miniature horses that if you give them too much time off, then they might not be able to come into foal again. In Shelby's case, she might be one of those horses because she had a foal in 2007. It was 2007? 2008. 2008. And it didn't make it. It died, and we decided, well, you know, Shelby's probably a little distraught over losing her foal. Let's give her some time off. So I didn't breed her the next year. And then I tried breeding her the year after that, and then I tried breeding her last year, and I've not been successful at getting another foal from her. So it's kind of an unspoken thing with minis. It's a use it or lose it. And so it's one of those things I consider when I think about breeding Becca. Do I really want to risk not getting another foal if I decide not to breed her this year? So at this time, I could probably say that I'm going to breed her for this year so that she'll have a foal next year, but it might not be until later in the summer. So instead of having an April baby, she might have a May or June baby. Maybe even July, just to give myself some more time between, and Becca some more time between. Okay, let's see. How did Taylor go about training Puck to drive?
Horribly.
Yeah. Puck was a big experiment. That's what we talked about our last show.
Well, okay. What I just did with Blue there, I had the halter on and then the lead. Sorry, the halter and the lead, and then I was lightly putting pressure on it, just constant pressure, basically, lightly pulling on it while the line is staying static, like this. I wasn't yanking or tugging, just holding, and Blue would be pulling back and pulling back. And if he pulls really, really hard, you release a little bit of it, so the line keeps its pressure, but you're not getting into a super fight. I made the mistake of doing that with a gypsy horse once, and the chain broke at a show. So you release it, keep the tension as you need it, and then you kind of start over a little bit. And as soon as that horse relaxes or gives in or steps towards you, it relaxes the tension and the pressure relieves on a horse. Horses usually move away from pressure. You put pressure on them, they move. Yeah, move away from pressure. I'm trying to remember, you're riding a horse, you put with your right leg and they'll move to the left. So anyways, they try to move away from pressure usually. And so you pull on them. Why the heck do I think I'm horribly wrong on that?
Well, you pull and putting pressure
Anyways,
on the
I'm
back
pulling
of
out, it
his
puts
head.
pressure on the back of his head, and he's fighting it for a little while, and then as soon as he relaxes, you release it, and then he'll fight a little bit, you release it, and he gets better and better at it. Sorry, I'm taking a moment to go through this. It's a slight process. So after a short while, he kind of gets the idea. There's this small amount of tension, and if I step forward, the tension's gone. So he takes a step forward, and I release it, and then I'll kind of scratch him because he likes to be scratched. And then I'll make him take 2 steps, and then I release it and scratch it. And every step he takes, I release it just a hair, and then I pull again, and kind of get a little rhythm until I can just keep the pressure on, and he keeps walking forward. Kind of a simple Pavlovian type response. With Puck, we got a driving halter and a harness and everything, and we put it on him. First thing he does is he just lays down on the ground like he was dead and just drops and hits the ground and broke the turret ring. Anyways, it's, I guess, nothing you have to worry about. Anyways, he breaks a part of the halter right off the bat. Just bam, harness. Hits the ground, or part of the harness. So we started by ground driving. Hey, bud.
I scared him.
Where you, first of all, it's easiest to start with just the halter, same way you do with another horse. Start with the harness, or with a halter training like I just did there. And then you move on to where you have the halter with the bit, or bitless. Bitless is easier because it feels the same as just using your webbing or rope halter. Putting a bit in takes a little more time for the horse to get used to. Some of them have no problem, don't care. Others, it really bothers them, especially if it hits their teeth. That's another day. So you'd go through the same thing with him, except you're from behind now, so when he walks and he's not pulling a cart and you're walking behind a horse, it gets interesting because now your pressure comes from behind, and to stop this horse, you're pulling on it, and all you've got is the bit, and you're trying to pull his head down, and he'll lift his head up, you turn right, you turn left. So anyways, it's pretty simple. With Puck, we hooked him all up, took him out on the road, and we're walking behind him. We're like, this is cool. And basically just started going, yeah, this is fun, and would just like pull on it to make him go to the left, and we were, like I said, horrible. Weren't soft on his mouth at first with the bit, which is just a light touch. If you're too tough, it can injure the jaw where the bit rests in between the front part of the teeth and his molars in the back, and you want the bit to rest there. If you're not soft on their mouth, you can pull the bit and smack their teeth, and they start to really hate to have you put the bit in. And so we just took him out and started walking behind him. It was easy to get him to go because we'd just take part of the reins, the traces, the reins, sorry, I'm horrible with the parts, and just kind of snap it and whip him on the rump with it, and he'd walk forward. And then to whoa, we'd sometimes have to just lean back and pull on it to get him to stop, and he was all over the place, and he was young and didn't know what he was doing, and we didn't know what we were doing. But we went out and did it every day. And after a fairly short time, we kind of figured out how he was doing things, and he quickly figured out what we wanted him to do when we were yanking on stuff. And then we didn't have to yank nearly as hard. The way I would go about it now is, like I was explaining, more with Blue, where put it on, and again, you have to ground drive. I wouldn't just go out on the street. I would have a pen or a fenced area, and then take him in there and start out with doing it with just a harness or a halter on, and then you have your long lines, and you just go ahead and get used to the horse, get the horse used to the pressure, pulling on the right, pulling on the left, so he gets used to just having this odd feeling of you're no longer leading from the front with the halter, but you're from behind and pulling. Again, it's called ground driving. And then you can introduce the bit. One of the hardest parts with Puck was the blinders. Always hated the blinders. They're actually really essential, especially with cars and dogs. Once you hook up the cart, it was a lot easier to control where he goes, because without the cart, he could just spin and do anything he wanted, and it got kind of difficult. Brenda would walk. This is an important thing for me to say. Brenda walked with a lead at first attached
to the driving halter. And so she'd be next to him walking, and I'd be behind. I'd be behind driving, so we had a little bit of control after we had figured out a better way to do it. Once you have them hooked up to the cart, you again ground drive. So you're behind the cart walking, and the cart is then hooked up to the harness, which is on the horse, and then you're walking behind all of it. It's a lot safer. So this is kind of the steps you go through to get them to do it, and then again you go through the same steps. It gets them used to pulling just the cart without any weight or pressure. It takes a while for them to learn that they just can't turn on a dime anymore, that it takes wide turning radius depending on the cart and things. So Puck was a fluke, like everything that we've done with horses. We learned exactly what not to do and exactly what we will never do again and what to avoid. So yeah, I would not really ever use like 90% of what we did with Puck with any other horse, because it just is a horrible idea and way to do things. But ultimately it led us to doing things like we've done with Blue. I do need, like with Shelby, since she's not really breeding, to go ahead and hook Shelby up and train her to drive. That'd be kind of fun. She's pretty calm and easy, so she'd be a fairly simple one to train. And did I record any of the train? No. The only thing I really have recorded with Puck is when he reared up and punched me in the face. That's the only thing I have that's recorded. Other than that, no. But yeah, training and driving, at least the extreme basics, are going to essentially be the same as training with the halter, with a riding halter, except you do pretty much all of it from the ground, and you have a lot more parts that you have to introduce over time in steps for the horse to get used to. And I like it more, but I have only worked with a couple large full-sized horses and worked with them, did some training. Someday when we can have a larger place, I'll have a couple of them and be able to work with them. So, but until then, apply the same techniques with a tiny horse, and it's different. I don't know if you were planning on training a miniature horse to drive or a full-sized horse. Same concept, but again, you're able to be a lot more, like I say, every time we're going to do a show, I'm probably going to say it. You learn bad techniques and you get relaxed with the way you work with a miniature horse, and it can be dangerous when you are with a large-sized horse. So even then, the way you train a large horse to drive versus a miniature horse to drive, it's easier to just depend on, oh, I can stop and lean back and stop this horse versus a full-sized horse, which you're walking behind. And if it does something, you're dropping those reins and letting it go, and you're going to have to collect. Sorry, you'll have to collect it later. I'm sorry if nobody could see me that whole time, but anyways, there are books and handbooks on it, but if you have any experience with training, it's as far as riding a regular horse, it's the same thing. You just have more steps and a lot more equipment, ultimately.
I was just inside and I started a poll to ask people if we should train Blue to be our next driving horse. So far, people are yes and maybe.
Yes and maybe. Well, he's got a nice little trot, but
He's
don't
gonna
bite
be
me, or I'm gonna put you in the corner.
He's gonna be a tall, nice driving horse. Yeah, the taller ones have better.
Oh. Yeah, he doesn't want to lead his mom. That's gonna be I can't really break him with biting because he just wants to stay around his mom, and it's hard to separate him. So it was biting is another fun one. The only way we ended up getting Puck to stop biting was every time he did it, we kind of drove him away and separated him from us and put him in a corner. And anytime he came near us, instead of hitting him back or tapping him or holding onto him,
lip, like
some people will grab the lip and twist it or tons of different things. We would actually push him away from us. Buddy, I just touched you. Anyways, do things like that where we would keep him, just force him to stay away from us because they're a herd animal, that every time he went to bite, we would push him away and we would walk towards him and drive him back, and then we would turn around and go back to what we were doing. And if he came back up to us to bite us again, we'd do it. And we kept doing it over and over and over and until he associated, again, kind of like an associative or Pavlovian training, that I try to bite and then I can't be in the herd. I get kicked out of the herd. And it's the same thing that other horses will do when a horse doesn't behave the way they want it to. They kick and they chase him to the outside. So that was the only way we ended up breaking Puck of biting.
Puck had a very strong biting habit, and colts are basically notorious for nipping. And it's always something you have to factor in with colts. They're trying to, instinctually play the dominance games, and when they're roughhousing with each other, it's not as big of a deal. But humans are much more delicate than horses, so it hurts more. I remember the very first thing that happened to me when we got Puck was I threw my arm back to hold him back so that he wouldn't walk up into the driver's seat because we had a van to transport him, and he bit me. And I said, okay, fantasy had just ended. This horse owning thing is a little bit different than I had pictured. But then I found out that little boys like to bite, don't you? It's just the way it is. And so you just have to be on top of them with that and teach them good manners, and then they can be good stallions or geldings. Every good stallion is a better gelding, is what everyone horse industry says. The only reason why there's so many stallions with miniatures is because, well, they're small
and people, there's not a big, they're trying to have a big drive for gelding your horses, but they, unlike a large horse, which people will ride and things like that, and it's great to have a gelding, the only real uses you have for a miniature horse are breeding, showing, driving, and a pet.
And therapy.
That's a very small market of therapy, but most people don't want a cart and to have a driving horse. And if showing, there's not much in the way of gelding shows.
There's a gelding incentive fund, but people have to donate to that to entice people to show geldings. It's just like once you have a top winning gelding, what do you do with that? It's advertising for the parents' farms, not exactly for the person showing or who owns that gelding.
Right.
So.
And as far as a pet, most people won't pay the money to have him gelded because it's just a pet that they keep like as a pasture ornament. And so it's kind of weird. But anyways, so if you're going to get a horse for showing, they can have, a stallion ends up being a multi-use horse for the miniature horse world. Whereas with full-sized horses, you have a couple stallions that do a lot of breeding and the rest get gelded and are used for many different things. Miniature horse world, they don't do that, which is, a big problem, But
then there's also the demand. More people are interested in having a stallion than having a gelding too, and so I can offer Blue for sale, and then offer him at a discount if he were a gelding. So people will pay more for the stallion than they will for a gelding, and so that's another factor is why there's so many more stallions. Is that there's
and you can keep several miniature horse stallions.
Yes, they don't get out.
Right, you can keep a lot of miniature horses, and so so you can keep your own little breeding herd, like we are, and it's much easier and much cheaper than large horses. So
there's a large, stallions are prolific in miniature horses versus most other horses, which is fine. Like with Puck, I've trained him, he can do a lot. Just have to be careful around another stallion when there's a mare in heat.
Yeah, Puck is he serves a purpose as a teaser stallion for me. He lets me know when a mare is in heat, versus Showtime just doesn't say anything, or I can't tell with Showtime. But Showtime is my main breeding stallion. However, this year I'm thinking about changes, but I'm just not sure where I'm going yet. But Puck, he's a great horse. Eventually, we haven't gelded him because we would eventually like to have a foal from him, and to keep that foal. And then I don't know, it's Taylor's choice mostly of whether to geld him or not after that, but I think that we're just sort of preserving him so that we could have.
If we're not going to breed him, then he needs to be gelded.
Yeah, but we still want to have a foal from him, and so that's where I'm thinking, okay, we'll have to hardship him to AMHA to make him more not necessarily valuable, but more appealing, and then the foal. If we decided that that was one we didn't want to keep, it would be double registered versus single registered.
Moonchild. With line breeding, there's breeding relatives, and then there's line breeding. Livestock is a lot like with, nice buddy, it's a lot like dogs and cats and things. To get livestock of a certain type, they do a lot of inbreeding, where they're breeding relatives, brothers, sisters, cousins, and then they'll do something called line breeding, where you will breed either a father with his daughter or granddaughters, or a son with his mother, things like that. So instead of in the pedigree tree where you're crossbreeding, they'll actually breed down and cause a straight line in the pedigree instead of having it open out. And they do this.
She's gonna go pee now. All the shavings are in the house and the chickens. It's okay, I'll just pool right there.
At least it's the same spot. The reason they do this is because they take the, obviously genetics, they take the traits they want and they breed heavily for it. That's how you get like miniature horses, that's how they get the different cattle breeds. So they'll start out heavily line breeding and crossbreeding. Once you have an established breed, continuing to do so can become a big problem if you have recessive genetic
defects,
like yeah.
Dwarfism.
Yeah, dwarfism. If you have a dominant defect, you're going to know about it immediately because it appears every time they breed. If it's recessive, they can pass it on without it showing up until both parents have it, and then it can affect them. Like lethal white overo would be considered a recessive genetic defect.
However, it can't really be passed on because the foal that gets...
Except the foal dies, so it can't really be passed on. Well, yes, it gets passed on. It's recessive. It just has to get it individually or single, and it just kills the...
The offspring can't pass it on.
Right. So... I'm
going to go get the shavings.
But there are defects that can occur from line breeding, or not defects. I guess there are positive and negative defects that can occur. There's a type of cattle from Belgium that is double muscled, and this came from their extensive inbreeding, and this is considered a benefit because the cow is roughly the same stature and bone build as regular ones, but it puts on, it's called double muscle, like 50 to 75% more muscle than other cows because it doesn't have the gene to stop its muscle growth. This came directly from their heavy line breeding, and instead of it being something that ruins conformation or damages the animal, it ended up giving them something that they like or want. With miniatures, we as far as our breeding, we try to avoid it if possible. but it doesn't have to be avoided unless you know of or see basically some sort of genetic defect. And then they have, like in a lot of breeds you'll hear about in dogs or even chickens, that they have these genetic defects that they're trying to breed out, and they end up developing a test for it, and then you can test your animal for it to see if it has it, and if it does, to no longer breed it, so that you stop the transfer of that in that breed of animal. So, extremely long answer. It is there, yes. There are some people who do it. Boone's Buckaroo that we talked about.
Oh yeah.
He had some pretty heavy.
There was some heavy line breeding with him.
Him and his daughters.
He would be bred to his daughters. His daughters would be bred to his sons. There was a lot of that going on, and people would even look for that in their horses. They'd be like, my horse is double Buckaroo bred, which would mean that they'd have 2 lines of Buckaroo in there, or my horse is more Buckaroo bred than an own son of Buckaroo, meaning that they bred a son to a daughter, and so they got like 75% Buckaroo, or I don't know exactly what their numbers were, but they were just they were claiming that you get more Buckaroo by breeding Buckaroo to a daughter of Buckaroo than by breeding Buckaroo to another horse, and then you're getting just a direct son. So you have like these people seeking as much of that original horse as possible, and so long as the horse keeps producing what people want, the line breeding isn't seen as bad. If you were to line breed a horse that had defects or conformational problems,
genetically it's not bad. If they started to see faults or problems coming up from this type of breeding, like if they start to see that all of Boone's Buckaroo's offspring are susceptible to certain diseases or start to develop conformational problems or things, then they'll go, we really shouldn't have done that because now we bred so heavily that we basically bred this defect into all of the offspring that we have now produced, and now it's gone out and it could have been spread to a very large percentage of the miniature horse world. One that happened, royalty in Europe is what they say, because they were very heavily inbred. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. If you were to breed with your cousin, your first cousin, you double your chance of having a child born with some sort of actual congenital defect.
like retardation.
Yeah, some sort of retardation or congenital defect. So it doubles. Oh my gosh, it doubles. What that means is you have a 2% chance of having some sort of defect between you and a person, just an absolute stranger. With your first cousin, it becomes a 4% chance. So it's really not, although it's odd for us socially, it's not really a huge increase. 4% isn't very big. I don't know what the numbers are between you and your sibling or your parents.
Interestingly enough, in human culture, not necessarily culture, but genetically, we are wired to not seek the companionship of our siblings or parents, and so that is one way our gene pool has stayed open. It's just that we're wired to not be attracted to our siblings and our parents.
Well, the daughters are. Daughters aren't attracted to the people that they grew up around up until the age of 3 years old. And stallions have something that's built in that every year they kick out the horses that are in their herd, including the mares. They drive them out.
No, just the foals.
Oh, well, they somehow mark. There's something that happens with the foals, not the mares. Sorry, they kick out the
yearlings.
The yearlings, the colts and the fillies, so that they don't continue to line breed with their own daughters, which is interesting. So a lot of weird things.
Yeah,
Comes a genetic show.
Genetics are basically what all of it comes down to in the end. So we find out more and more is tied to it. But yeah, was he messing around in the shavings? Silly guy. I had to put the shavings down because the smell of ammonia was taking over the stall, and that's why I had to run and go get them. But better to mess around in shavings than puddles.
So line breed to your heart's content. Breed cross relatives. You're just going to end up weakening. You pretty much are going to weaken your gene pool the longer you do it.
What you're breeding for a certain strength, but what you don't also realize is that you're also breeding in the weaknesses. You're strengthening the weaknesses. So that's the downside of line breeding, and that's how you get dogs that have blindness. I mean, Appaloosas is a good example with horses as far as blindness goes. They lose pigment in their eyes, I believe is the reason. And so they suffer from what is called night blindness. So when there's dim light situations, they can't see very well. And so they basically, you'll notice them sticking to wherever the nearest shelter is. They don't go out wandering at night because they're basically blind at night. So the heavier the Appaloosa breeding you have, the more likely that Appaloosa will suffer from night blindness. It's just one of those things that happened when we
probably came from the Nez pairs when they bred for Appaloosas. Mm-hmm. Probably something that was joined with the genes that gave you the Appaloosa markings. So they got the marking, the positive, but what came with it was a negative, and that just happens when you do intensive breeding for specific genetic traits. And we just call one positive and the other one negative. Technically, they're just a gene.
I mean, we can conclude our show now unless there's any final questions. Well,
you guys can think of other questions we can answer, but Moonchild, you look at the pedigrees. Who was it we have who has line breeding?
Puck is actually line bred.
Yeah, Puck has line breeding. He's got amazing, beautiful, we'd have to show him compared to other horses, but he's got these great, fine legs. He's very fine boned for a miniature horse. Most of them still have kind of a stocky build from the Shetland blood. And although Puck is almost completely pure Shetland, he's a very fine, thin-boned horse, but he's got quite a bit of line breeding in him.
Yeah, his, I think that on his maternal side, his dam was bred to her sire, or maybe it was his granddam was bred to her sire, somewhere in there. He has the line breeding like that, but it's more of a Shetland line that was line bred, and I think that's really the only place is like his granddam was bred to her sire.
Yeah. Sorry, to me, any line breeding is quite a bit, but that's us socially. We avoid line breeding socially. So, and again, as far as our breeding projects, unless the horses have a specific trait we really, really want, that we're gonna, avoid it because we don't want to compound.
There's a mouse.
Compound any negative genes by breeding heavily for positive genes at the same time. So there's that trade-off for you.
I was hoping these little guys were gone. Oh well. Get another block out for him.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Think of more questions. We'll post them on our Facebook page or email them to us from our littlehooves.com.
Yeah. Any more questions or suggestions for our show? I was going to say, I don't know if I said what we're planning for Sunday. Clipping Annie. Annie is really, really scruffy right now. If you tuned in, I guess it was a week ago, she came in here and I kind of introduced her. but she hasn't been shedding out so well as the others, and so I thought she could really use a nice clipping job. And since it's warm, she'll probably be much better off during the day.
Oh boy.
Poor thing is like wearing a wool coat right now in the summertime, and at night it's a little cool, but I think that she'll be fine. I mean, Becca's completely shut out, so clipping Annie is kind of what I've got in store for Sunday. It will be her second clip job, so we'll see how it goes. And if you want to watch, just tune in at 1 o'clock on Sunday. I will have most likely bathed her beforehand because it makes clipping go a whole lot easier, and it doesn't dull the blades as quickly. So hopefully everything will go as planned and the weather will cooperate. But I think that is the end of our show. If anyone wants cookies, let me know. Willing to make some for anyone who wants them. yeah. All right, so I guess I'll just leave these guys in here for a little while, and we'll get on the chat, and we'll chat with anyone who wants to hang out and chat.
Toss some more shavings. Let me dry all this out.
Oh, okay, well, they're right here. I thought I put down enough, but I guess not.
Well, I'll just swing him around and get him out of here right now, so he's not eating them.
Oh, he was actually eating them?
Yeah, he's chewing at them and stuff.
No. Silly boy.
Pain.
Okay, well. Is there anything?
Get your little shovel. And the wheelbarrow, please.
All right.
Those aren't a shovel. They're horrible things.
With the shavings, it works. I'll go get the shovel. Go. That's exactly what you want.
Well, I'll grab it. Just go inside. I've got it.
Okay. It's just right there.